opposition, and he has indicated that it has been NUP that allegedly did cheat the NRM 2.7 million votes. Robert Chagulanyi on the other side, who also just cast his ballot just a few minutes ago in Magere, did say that for him this represents a protest vote, and he does represent a generation of young people who want to see change. Who of these two are really going to take it to State House right there in NTV? That's something that we're looking forward to seeing starting 4 p.m. today, when the ballots start to be counted and later be tallied. The National Tally Center, of course, is already ready to just also give us the 48 hours on when who will be exactly the leader of this country for 2026-2031. Now, let's go to Richard Oyel, who is live for us from Moroto, to give us an update on what the polling day looks like. It's, a couple of hours into it. That's 12:41 p.m. Richard Oyel, I want to connect to you and please speak to us. What's the mood like? Are the BVVK machines working? But also, what's the voter turnout looking like?
Well, Canary, in Moroto here, the voter turnout is looking very good. Actually, what we're seeing is that the voters are even struggling to ensure that they be in the line, but also that they reach and vote for their favorite candidate. What's happening here, I'm at Baza polling station, where the incumbent and also the NRM flag bearer, that's Francis Adome Lorika, is supposed to take his vote from here, but he will be tussling out with an independent candidate, that is Fred Angela, who actually lost the flag in the NRM primaries, but decided to come back. And so we are monitoring. We're seeing a lot of voters actually turned up. They started coming as early as 7 a.m. at the different polling stations across Moroto here. There's also a race there in Madeniko County, where John Baptist Loki, the incumbent and also NRM flag bearer, is supposed to compete with Caesar Akol. Of course, he's been a speaker for Moroto council here. He decided to take a step and come to compete for the Member of Parliament position. And then we also have Tepeth County, where we'll be watching closely how the race go between, of course, we have Lokoro Albert, who is the incumbent, but then he lost the flag during the NRM primary. He's going to compete with Lokowa Michael. We are observing the race across Karamoja sub-region as well, but right now we're keeping key eyes in Moroto here, where the electorates are definitely taking to the polls. They are showing up. They want to see that their favorite candidate wins. Here at Baza, we have registered voters, that is 429 voters that are registered here. Most of them, I'm told, have been showing up here. I've been talking earlier on to the presiding officer, that is Angela Emmanuel, who is overseeing some of this voting. But we've also seen security deployment here at the polling station to just ensure that peace prevails at the end of the day. The officials tell us that the vote counting will start at 4 p.m. That's when
Richard Oyel, thank you very much for that update, and we look forward to seeing how things will turn out in Moroto and the entire Karamoja sub-region. Want to also make it clear that we earlier indicated that Okot Boniface, who is a candidate in Kole South, is unopposed, but just to make it clear, he's not unopposed. He'll be facing an incumbent, that is, of course, Ochen Peter. Just to make it clear, Okot Boniface from Kole South is not unopposed. He's a member of the NRM. He was unopposed in the NRM primaries, but he's not unopposed in the main election. He'll be facing off, among other candidates, Ochen Peter, who is an incumbent. And now I want to cross over to reporter Shamim Nabakos, who is live for us, who will be speaking to one of the presidential candidates. 3 of them have already cast their ballot. and that is General Shamuntu, who did cast his ballot in Ntunga Mwatsa at about 10:30, 11 a.m., and then that was followed by candidate of the NRM, Yoweri Museveni, who just cast his ballot a couple of minutes ago, and then Robert Kyagulanyi of the National Unity Platform has also finished casting his ballot. They all addressed the press, and the main concern was, we hope that this process goes on and comes out as a smooth and credible process. Of the 8 candidates here, 3 of them are done casting their ballot, and I understand that Mubarak Mnyagwa will be casting his ballot in just a few minutes from now. He's already approaching the polling station to cast his ballot. That's Mubarak Mnyagwa from the Common Man's Party. 2026-2031. That's, of course, of course, the candidates right there: NRM, NUP, NTF, DC, CMP, CP, RPP, and NPP. That is going to be, of course, a very competitive one that we're waiting to see what happens there after 4 p.m. Now, let me hand over back to Tracy for more analysis. Tracy.
Well, thank you so much, Canary Mugume. There, very key insights into this particular race. You are looking at the country, Uganda, as it takes to the polls. And of course, 48 hours after the official tally begins, we will be expecting the Electoral Commission to announce a winner of the presidential race. And we also have winners from the member parliamentary races. But we are looking at what the country is at this particular moment. And I'm joined by Bridget Nsimenta, who is voters register. How have things progressed so far?
Much thanks. How it has progressed is just the same, just like in other areas, because we see that the polling stations right now, they're just using the manual voter registers to check out the names, to check out the identities of these voters, and then they are proceeding to the voting process, just like in many other areas. And of course, the BVVK kits or machines have failed to operate, just like in very many other areas, and that has also delayed the whole system. But also away from that, we have seen that most of the stations, the polling stations, especially in Kajara County, they have failed to start on time, just like many had expected to start the voting at 7 a.m., but then it came to 10, while most of the polling stations within Kajara County had not yet started voting. But then also, Tracy, to take you a little bit on what transpired before midday, just what we have been into. We have been seeing a candidate, Mugisha Muntu, do the voting process and also get through that. But then I will quote I will talk about what he said or what he spoke to us as journalists or as the press immediately after voting, and also what he expects out of this election for 2026. He said that he cautioned the IGG to follow the delays or the failure to use the BVVK machines, and also to make further investigations after large sums or large amounts of money have been imparted into the process, but at the end of the day, they haven't been used. And he also notes that whether he wins or not, and as a party also continues to reach out to each and every area within the country, and also to spread the message as they build the country. And also he says that he calls on for fair, he also calls on the EC so that they can have a fair and free and just vote this time round, that is 2026. He calls on the EC not to have bias or to be biased within this electoral period. And also he says that the struggle continues, it does not just stop here. And also finally, he said, yes, please. And also he also notes that whether they lose or they win, the race must continue, and whoever wins or whoever loses, the race must continue. Just behind me, as you can see, these are some of the voters awaiting. Some are waiting to vote, others are done with voting, and the process is still calm. Literally, it is calm. Within Kajara, it is calm. Within Rohama, it is calm. And within the Ntungama municipality, it is also still calm. We have seen that in Kajara, in Rohama County, the First Lady has actually also finalized with the voting process, but we shall be bringing you all that onto your screens. Back to you, other political command center.
Jet and Cement are there giving us an update from Ntungamo, and we will be getting back to her much later. But from roadmaps to primaries, and from primaries to the nominations and all the way to the campaigns, finally the country takes to the polls to get the leaders that will take us through the next 5 years. Now, it has been quite interesting, from endorsements to cooperation agreements, name it, defections, denominations, whatever you want to call it. We are bringing you insights of that particular race that we got here on this very day, January 15th. I'm now joined by Simon Kagwanjala, who is ready to take us through the next panel discussion, dissecting the journey that got us here and what Ugandans should expect moving forward. Simon.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. A very interesting conversation is unfolding. Of course, since morning, when Ugandans went to cast their ballots, you can tell that the stakes are incredibly high in this election, and it's a very pivotal moment in Uganda's journey towards democracy. But what is in it for the country? We'll be doing a bit of analysis here and there on what has unfolded so far and what it spells for Uganda's democracy. Joining me this afternoon is Reverend Simon Feta, a lecturer at the Uganda Christian University and a political analyst, together with Farida Lule, one of the accredited election observers, and Mr. Obed Katurebe from the Media Center. Good to have you all, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon Kagwanjala.
Farida, from the observer's perspective, what's your reading of things thus far?
Thank you, Simon, and the rest of the viewers. I think we had a little bit of tension, but now we are getting there. And I thank the chairman for having come out very, very fast to contain the situation. Otherwise, if we had gone up to lunchtime, it was going to be worse. So I think now we are going to have a peaceful election, but at the end of the day, we are likely to have extension of hours of the election, of counting in night. And I don't know whether the commission is prepared for that night counting.
Thank you very much. Reverend Feta, the exercise kicked off with quite a number of glitches, technical over the machines. What kind of picture does it lend?
It has indicted the EC squarely, because the EC's promises have been squandered already from the first day of the actual voting. Personally, I went to to my station to vote. I was there 7 a.m. and I cast my ballot until 10 a.m. And I was the second person to cast that vote in my queue. And that is a very, very big say. Even in other parts in the region across the country, I've called in to check, people have faced the same challenge. And I was keen to watch how they opened every detail of the black box and opening them up with the observers and agents and see how they're profiling the details as they were listening down. And I could tell that some of the agents even themselves were a little bit taken back in terms of the education they needed to have on the content and the depth of things there. I could see even that they were still pulling down posters from the poles, from the trees, where the polling station is taking place. And that was very, very interesting to watch. That you could tell that actually the preparedness needed to have gone a little bit further to ensure that certain things are in place. But the biometric machine is the envisioned game changer, I think, has fallen on itself. And I think the people who procured it and the monies that were given to procure it, I'm sure there will be some serious integration. But I hope that the resolve to have a personal physical tally, counting and voting, check the name, check the ID and vote will succeed.
Well, thank you very much, Reverend. Obed, Ugandans went to the polls amidst lots of tensions, lots of uncertainty, internet is off, what kind of picture does it paint of the country, of the state of affairs of the country?
Well, I wouldn't agree with your words of tension, anxiety, and stuff like that. The tension and anxiety probably came after the biometric machines collapsed.
Can I just interrupt you just a bit, because as we bring you real-time updates, candidate Mubarak Munyagwa is casting his ballot right now, and Shamim Navakoza is right at the spot where Honorable Mubarak Munyagwa, presidential candidate, has just cast his ballot. Shamim, share with us your update.
Simon, I'm coming to you live from Kawempe, where the presidential candidate for Common Man's Party, Mubarak Munyagwa Serunga, has just cast his ballot here at the polling station where I am currently standing. But I would like to speak to him and hear from him about the process. He came in a few minutes ago, but we can say it was smooth for him to get into the station, but also to get into casting his ballot for himself here as expected on any other day. But we are going to be speaking to him to just hear from him what particularly he assesses the process like, what he has found as challenges or even wins for this particular process of the election 2026. And he's one of the 8 presidential candidates whom we are critical to get to understand what the assessment is for the presidential elections, especially one that he is contesting in. Honorable Mubarak Munyagwa, many thanks for speaking to us. We would like to hear from you. After casting your ballot, how is the process in your assessment?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, our dear viewers. Yeah, I'm done with voting, as you have put it, but there is something that is fundamental here, of legal effect, of legal implications, that we don't have the VBBK machines here. These machines are a creature of the law. They came after some legislation. A statutory instrument was issued by the minister, and which went through due process and became law, subsidiary legislation. So the question is, does the Electoral Commission have powers to suspend law, any of the electoral laws? That is a big question, which are moving right now, which requires serious legal consultations. Are we moving properly? Are we moving in compliance with the electoral laws? You see, today, the issue of machines does not go without any precedent. This is not the first time. The last election, we had voter the identification machines, which failed, and we are later on suspended. These people went ahead to bring back the issue of machines without proper preparation. And the biggest undoing is that this time around, they even put in place a law that provides for those machines to be at the polling stations. So, can we say that we have held a lawful voting exercise without these machines? That is a big legal question. That what is the effect of these machines not being here? Can't it is likely to bring some legal battles ahead there. So the Electoral Commission is in trouble over these machines, because this time around they were here as a requirement of an electoral law. Yes, so you can't just suspend the law. You understand? Yes. So it's otherwise, hadn't it been that law in place, this is proper voting. Proper voting. People are lining up. Registers are here. Security, there is calmness. Police, actually it's police, not the UPDF, as we thought. It is proper voting now. But now the problem is that law. Yes.
Honourable, is it something that you are considering as a candidate who has participated in the process because you find a challenge with it? And being a lawyer, maybe we could hear more.
Seriously, we are taking it seriously. You see, ground is for petitioning any election, any electoral process, range from electoral offences to non-compliance of electoral laws. I don't want to diverge too much, but what I want to tell you is that it alone can constitute a ground. There is a law. Does the Electoral Commission have powers to suspend any of the electoral laws?
On any day, like we spoke earlier to the Electoral Commission, it says the statutory instrument as issued by the minister does not substitute the law that allows for utilization of both the biometric voter verification machine kits and the voters register. In fact, the Electoral Commission chairperson says most important is a national voter register.
As provided for by the Constitution, as I saw the chairperson alluding to that effect. But you know, the only agency that is charged with the mandate of nullifying or disregarding laws is the Constitutional Court. None of any other person in Uganda has powers to suspend laws. Whether the law is weak, you can talk of the hierarchy of laws. I understand. You can talk of the Constitution, the what. But, you know, it is another process for you to set aside the law. You get the point? You see, under rule of law, command is that none of us is above the law. The law is always supreme on top of us. Whether the Constitution overrides what, that is the Constitutional Court to determine. Not you. Not even the sitting president. So laws can be nullified by through due process, not by individuals.
Honourable, this is a process you say is as clear, it's a process you refer to as smooth, as not expected earlier on. Is it a process that you are hopeful it will take you to the top office of Uganda?
You see, an election is a process. This is part of the process. We have voting. Voting is smoothly moving on. Perfect. Despite that illegality that I'm citing, that lacuna that is being cited. But now we have tallying of votes. Counting, retrieving of DR forms, then transmission of results and declaration of results. Those are different, you know, those are different stages in this process. So we are monitoring closely and keenly to see what unfolds later, yes.
If all goes as you would say it would go, or you would expect it to go, considering the process from where you started the campaigning to now, the time of you going to the ballot and casting the ballot in favor of any other candidate or yourself as a candidate, we would like to hear from you, particularly if all goes as expected. Do you think you'll be in the top office soonest? Does the process warrant so, even with the current illegalities that you speak about?
We have already put it clear as Common Man's Party through our structures. We have established none of the candidates is expected to get 50% plus one vote. The required legal threshold. We have already put it clear to the nation that the way we see things, the research that we have conducted, we see the polls are so tight that none of the candidates is likely to get the required legal threshold.
Honourable, don't you think the research could be wrong? Because if the process is as smart as you look at it, or as you see it, even in your assessment, like you said, don't you think it's so easy for one to, in fact, go past the 50+1 as required by law?
Shamim, what matters is to have a free and fair process. Let the Electoral Commission maintain a free and fair process. We, as Common Man's Party, we cherish honesty and truthfulness and fairness. If the process, once the process evolves freely and fairly, lawfully, goes on lawfully, For us, whoever emerges the winner, we can even congratulate, no problem.
Thank you very much, Honorable. But certainly the viewers of Sanyuka Television would like to hear from you and get to understand what your entire process mu Luganda. Twandiagadde okumanya okuwulira okuva gy'oli Honorable Mubarak Munyagwa omaliriza okulonda olondedde wano Kawempe. Kituufu ekitundu kino gwe wali okikulembera okomyewo okulembera Uganda yonna. Twandiagadde okuwulira okuva gy'oli. Akalulu olwaleero olunaku lw'okulonda okukateeka mu box lutambudde lutya, biki byolabye ebikusanyusizza nga candidate osanga n'ebyo by'oyinza okulowooza nti bumulumulu obuli.
Well, that's Honorable Mubarak Munyagwa. Now that makes the number 4 candidates who have so far cast their ballot. Honorable Munyagwa's interview continues on our sister Luganda TV station, Sanyuka. And thank you to whoever is watching us via Afro Mobile. It's time for you to upload and get to know, get ahead of news and analysis as voting gets underway. Well, President Museveni earlier spoke to the nation and made a projection that if all goes well, without him being cheated, he will win by 80%. Obed, you're still making your analysis.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Like I told you before that breaking news came in, to the contrary, Ugandans were very excited because campaigns ended and the messaging was very, very clear for people to turn out in big numbers. And Simon, people have turned out in big numbers. There was no anxiety. There was, to the contrary, excitement for people to vote. And they came very early. My colleague here says he was at the polling center at 7. Then came that unfortunate glitch by the Electoral Commission. It was a really serious glitch. One, it delayed the process of beginning. But I want to thank the Electoral Commission and other stakeholders to have taken that decision by around 10 to suspend the machines and go manual. I voted at around 10 here at Kamocha. And I was so shocked.
Was it manual?
It was manual.
Yeah. Okay.
It was manual. And when I was moving, some lady security officer was like, where you're going, the line is too big. But when I moved to the polling station, the lines had shortened tremendously because the manual process is really fantastic and so quick. Simon, I don't know if you have voted already, but I found it so interesting. You just show them your voter card or national identity card. They roll through the book. Your picture is there. Every detail is there. You're given a ballot. It has voted, and the tallying process goes on. The glitch of the machines notwithstanding, I think so far so good.
Farida, the technical glitch of the machines notwithstanding turns out to be the biggest highlight so far of the process. Does it beg the question on the preparedness of the Electoral Commission? If I take you through the chronology of events, the first batch of machines came in around end of October, and around December is when the EC embarked on training. Does it beg questions on preparedness?
Yeah, but to a certain extent, because we see that the issue at hand is not around people failing to operate the machine. It's actually the machine itself failing to actually take off. So we can't blame it on the personality that the people were not trained on time or they did not understand the machine. So we are now addressing the issue of why did the machine fail in the first place. So where was the problem with the technology? So because also on preparedness, the EC, when they started delivering the register, they were supposed to give the register to political parties 2 weeks to the polling day.
15 days to be precise.
14 days, yeah.
14 years.
14 days. But they are giving this polling, the register to political parties 7 days to the polling. So meaning that there was a little bit of unpreparedness with the commission, and we need to find out what was that, what was delaying them to perform according to the timelines. And also, Simon, the BVVK machine, because he's saying that when we turned to the manual register, where he was able to vote with the ID and also with the VLC, the voter location slip. But remember, we're saying that those without the ID, if you lost your ID, but you know that you're on the register, please come, because we are going to do facial scanning. So what happens to those people? I think I'm going back to the field to know those people who do not have IDs, and they did not carry their voter location slips, and they were sure that we are going to rely on the machine to scan their facial for us to be able to get their biometrics. What happened? Have they been turned away, or they have been secured with the register, the manual register? So that I'm going to actually look into it after lunch, and then I'll be able to give a picture of what really happened. If really the BVVK machine gave us that impact to that extent, and to what extent. But I also want to thank the commission that by 6, they said each polling station will have a minimum of 700, 800. And when I sampled all the polling stations that I visited, by 6 and 7, they all had that threshold of 600, 700. Among the polling stations that I visited, there was none that had beyond 800. So I think they lived up to their word.
Well, Reverend Feta, today marks the climax of a process that started way back in 2023 with the roadmaps that were altered, I think, more than 3 times. When you look at the journey thus far, does anything tell you that the Electoral Commission has had its hands on deck?
It is, I think the EC came into enforcement even from the day of swearing in, 5 years ago, in terms of its mandate to carry out elections. And so they have a full 5 years to prepare for every nitty-gritty detail. And the roadmap is there, but I think the roadmap is just an operational guidance. But in terms of the people who are supposed to have done work that the EC has prepared, because these people are paid for 5 years, they're not in office there for nothing. They're paid up for 5 years, they've been paid monthly by citizens' money. And so if there is any glitch like we have seen, that's a very, very serious one. But I hope that it's not a hope now. The facts on the ground are speaking opposites in the ways how they have prepared citizens, in the way how they have done the civic education, the way how they have prepared at details for people to vote. I could observe, for example, that even when I was there at 7 o'clock, the BVK machine that was open from the black box, the EC officers scanned in their IDs. It failed for each of them. And so by the time I was coming in, so now this one here, I think we have to go manual. But there is a bigger dimension at the back end of the BVK, because there are IT questions to ask, particularly how that is linked to the internet switching off. Because there is a factor that can be interrogated, because the internet connectivity of things is a very big dimension in the design of these machines here. Because this design here is copyrighted and it works in a very standard format internationally. And so one of it is that it must be linked to the internet in some way, regardless of whatever it is. And so, but I hope that that can be resolved, and then you can check something differently. But the agents of the different political parties, alongside the candidates themselves, should take that up in some way, that the counting of the votes at the end of the day will be verified. But I would plead that maybe, since I voted at 10 o'clock, from 7 to 10, that's 3 hours. So that is some time to extend. So if the numbers are bigger, I hope there'll be some leniency to extend the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Obed, you would argue that the biometric gamble has failed miserably, despite the huge investment. How does this impact on the country's political trajectory?
Well, Simon, this is not the first time these machines are failing during an electoral process, and then you go manual. There are so many other standard variables that will determine a credible election. It's not even voting itself. There are so many things. The preparation, the general preparations, how people are educated, the campaign process, the tallying processes and processes. Remember, there is tallying at the polling station, at the districts, then the tallying, the remitting of the results to the National Tally Center. The biometric machine was one of the steps to further improve, but I don't think the failure of the biometric machines collapses the process and credibility of the electoral process. Like I said in my earlier submission, I was so impressed that everything is there. Your photo is there in the book, your details and stuff like that. There is no somebody else coming and you have no idea if he's part of the what. Because what was captured in the register was in the book these polling assistants were using. So I'm optimistic that the process will not be discredited, despite the glitch of the machines.
Okay, you've said it's not the first time that machines are failing. Do you get a sense that we have not learned from the past to better the integrity and quality of elections?
You're partly right. And that's why I saw the chairman of the Electoral Commission saying they're going to fully investigate where this one could have come from. If you noticed.
But it was foreseeable. There were quite a number of skeptics who are saying it's so unlikely that the machines will work.
Incidentally, it's unfortunate that skeptics really said that, and the Electoral Commission has fallen for that as well.
The likes of Honorable Nsereko would be vindicated.
If you remember, His Excellency, the President was so passionate about these machines. In fact, he didn't want to hear money voting. He wanted us to move to another step. Unfortunately, we've not been able. The Electoral Commission, the investigative agencies will investigate why we failed on this other small part. You must give them credit in the other processes, preparations. They've been very smart and open. They delivered voting materials, I think, a week ago. Wherever they've not been delivered in time, really, whichever is the officer in charge should be held accountable. Because the Electoral Commission delivered these materials a week. And our districts are no longer big. And we have roads. We don't no longer have districts that are impassable. You have materials a week before. Why don't you deliver these boxes in time at every polling station? To those that failed on that responsibility, there are not many, according to the sample so far, but they will also be held accountable, the presiding officers in those districts.
Well, Obed again. These machines come as a result of President Museveni's discontent on the electoral process that he claims rigged him of 2 million.
Really, whichever is the officer in charge should be held accountable. Because the Electoral Commission delivered these materials a week. And our districts are no longer big. And we have roads. We don't no longer have districts that are impassable. You have materials a week before. Why don't you deliver these boxes in time at every polling station? To those that failed on that responsibility, there are not many, according to the sample so far, but they will also be held accountable, the presiding officers in those districts.
Well, Obed again. These machines come as a result of President Museveni's discontent on the electoral process that he claims rigged him of 2 million votes. Do we now then express this fear that this process that Byabakama declared at 10 o'clock is easy to manipulate, and there are likely to be instances of President Museveni being rigged again.
Being cheated again.
Cheated.
No. Like I said earlier, Simon, the processes of delivering a credible election is not about the machines alone. There are other remedial measures that have been put in place. Every other election is a learning curve, and I do believe the Electoral Commission learned from the previous one, where probably the president was cheated, like he says, and now they must have. That's why, like my sister here said, they even reduced on the number they increased the number of polling stations, so that there are no long queues and so many people polling from one polling stations. That's also another remedial measure of society. We deliver a credible election, not to have many polling stations. The tallying processes, the observation. We're talking about observers, where my sister here is one of them. I've been informed over 1,600 observers put in place. Every other election is a learning curve, and I do believe the Electoral Commission learned from the previous one, where probably the president was cheated, like he says, and now they must have. That's why, like my sister here said, they even reduced on the number they increased the number of polling stations, so that there are no long queues and so many people polling from one polling stations. That's also another remedial measure of society. We deliver a credible election, not to have many polling stations. The tallying processes, the observation. We're talking about observers, where my sister here is one of them. I've been informed over 1,600 observers, both local and international. There are so many things that have been put in place so that all candidates get a credible results. I hope President Museveni will not be cheated again.
Farida, before we connect with our correspondents across the country, how, I believe you've had a chance to look at the roadmap issued by the Electoral Commission. I didn't see anything to do with biometrics.
Yes,
Do you imagine with the choice for biometrics was something done arbitrarily?
Yes, the way the whole issue was actually brought to the public was a shock, because you cannot bring a new technology in between the cycle. It's just like bringing new rules during the playing when you're playing football, and you bring so many other rules to govern the game. So I think they needed to have actively engage this machine before actually bringing it on board, because I think they didn't have it in plan before, and along the way it was actually adopted. Maybe, I don't know who convinced them to bring it on board, and I think it was the president himself, because he has been passionately talking about it and also engaging stakeholders and actually advocating for it. But personally, I also fell in love with that technology, because so many of our politicians, we are making full of this process. They do not want to look for votes, and at the end of the day, they want to manipulate the process. So I felt so excited that at least that part of the irregularity in our electoral process will be dealt with. But it's unfortunately that it did not take off. But for me, I still believe we can actually go for it, use it, maybe in the by-elections, and I think we
you listen to Mr. Byabakama. Did he suspend biometrics, or he stopped them completely?
I think he's suspended it.
So is there a possibility that the two could work in tandem?
Today,
yes.
Today in this process, no. Because we are going to have, I think he has to make it clear, because we are having other elections come next. After 15th, we have the Lord Mayors, the LC5, so the councillors. So is the biometric machine going to be? And I think we
you listen to Mr. Byabakama. Did he suspend biometrics, or he stopped them completely?
I think he's suspended it.
So is there a possibility that the two could work in tandem?
Today,
Yes.
today in this process, no. Because we are going to have, I think he has to make it clear, because we are having other elections come next. After 15th, we have the Lord Mayors, the LC5, so the councillors. So is the biometric machine going to be tested in those other elections, or it's going to be dealt with, like for this general election? Completely. So we need to, maybe the people who are going to interview him, they should actually ask him whether in the upcoming elections, because we still have a polls for other elective positions, are we also going to use it and test, because we have invested a lot of money in these machines. So are we going to just throw it away, or we are going to test in other elections and then prove our point that really our intention was good?
Thank you, Farida. Still having my analysts in the studio, Reverend Simon Feta, Farida Rule, and Obed Katurebe from the Media Center. But let's connect with Tracy in our main studio, who will be touching base with reporters across the country to share with us the latest updates. Tracy.
Well, Simon, it is indeed a beehive of activities across the country. 146 districts taking part in this very crucial event, and that is the National Polling Day that did kick off today, 15th of January. Among us, those the country will be choosing the next president, but also members of parliament, and also the women member of parliament, those that will be representing in the next parliament. That happens to be the 12th. And speaking of that, we also want to take a look at what the country is up to in other parts of the country. I'm now joined by our reporters from Wakiso and West Nile. In the West Nile, I have Joseph Omagor and Wakiso Jamila Mlindo. Join me now. Let's get into it. In terms of the voter turn-up, let's face it, it is already 1:25 p.m. and voting should be closing at 4 p.m. Where are we at in terms of the numbers turning up? Let me start with Joseph Omagor.
Of numbers, I think earlier on we had more people come into the polling stations, but the issue of the biometric machines actually, I think, dampened the mood a little bit. But after that, when we went manual, people came back and started lining. But the numbers are not as we expected initially. If you can look at this polling station in the background, you can see less activity taking place. But we've had several candidates. Timali Buti Jackson cast his vote at around 12 p.m., and that's around noon. And then also we had Muzaid Kemis around 10 a.m. He had cast his vote. Then we have got different candidates who are participating in this election. Talking about Arua City, where I am right now, we have
Closing at 4 p.m. Where are we at in terms of the numbers turning up? Let me start with Joseph Omagor.
Of numbers, I think earlier on we had more people come into the polling stations, but the issue of the biometric machines actually, I think, dampened the mood a little bit. But after that, when we went manual, people came back and started lining. But the numbers are not as we expected initially. If you can look at this polling station in the background, you can see less activity taking place. But we've had several candidates. Timali Buti Jackson cast his vote at around 12 p.m., and that's around noon. And then also we had Muzaid Kemis around 10 a.m. He had cast his vote. Then we have got different candidates who are participating in this election. Talking about Arua City, where I am right now, we have got about 201,000 voters who are registered to participate in today's exercise in about 4 constituencies. That's the Woman MP seat. We have got the Aivu Easter seat. We have got Central Division, and then we have got Aivu West. And on set with me, joining me right now is the ambassador of Uganda to Turkey. Kindly, Your Excellency, can you join me? Yes. Welcome to NBS.
Thank you very much.
We want to understand from where you voted from. Yes. Whether it's, well,
I voted at Kebir Cell, and just like a few minutes ago, the voting process was very peaceful. I had planned to vote at around 7, but when I sent my team, they told me the biometric machines were not working and there was a big line. So I want to thank government because there was very fast action on the backup strategy.
Well, that indeed is an update from Arua. We will be getting back to him much later on. I now want to cross over to Jamila quickly. Jamila, we definitely want an update. I see many voters right behind you. Have those already finished casting their vote, or are we still slow on the progress? Jamila.
Thank you, Tracy. After some of the sub-counties within Butambala district taking long to receive their voting materials and also starting later than anticipated to vote, the turn-up has been good in some areas. As you can see right where I am standing, there are 3 polling stations in 1 polling center, and people have really turned up. Now, earlier on, we visited other sub-counties, including Chibibi, Kalamba, away from Gombe Town Council, where we had been in the morning, and voting had started, though, of course, the delays had affected the process, the exercise. But now, numbers, people have turned up, though also the weather has not been so good, and that meant like people are coming in very fast, do the voting, and many of them are going back home. There are just a few people that are staying around the polling center, though what we are waiting for is to see if the delays, people are going to be given an extra hour or 2 to complete the exercise, since most of the polling centers started around 10:30, coming to 11 to start the voting. But all the issues that had hindered the exercise to begin have been sorted in the 3 sub-counties. However, the other 2 that first received the voting materials, that is Bulo and Ngando, they've really gone out. People have turned up to vote, and the numbers have not been as low as anticipated, because the voters, the registered voters are 67,389 across the entire district. And here where I'm standing, the incumbent Mwanga Chivumbi has already cast his vote earlier on in the day, between midday and 1 o'clock. And what I can tell you is that the people have turned up. They are happy that they finally get to vote. Of course, they still complain about the delays, but the fact that they've got the chance up to vote, and the numbers have not been as low as anticipated, because the voters, the registered voters are 67,389 across the entire district. And here where I'm standing, the incumbent Mwanga Chivumbi has already cast his vote earlier on in the day, between midday and 1 o'clock. And what I can tell you is that the people have turned up. They are happy that they finally get to vote. Of course, they still complain about the delays, but the fact that they've got the chance to cast their votes, most of them have been excited. Now they are awaiting the next 2-3 hours that come to the end of the exercise, to know if they are going to be given an extra hour, and that is mostly in the 3 sub-counties that received the voting materials a little late than anticipated. Of course, the machines were also another issue, but at most polling stations, the polling officers have managed to get that situation also sorted and let the people of Butambala cast their vote for the presidential candidate they want, the Member of Parliament, as well as the woman Member of Parliament. Back to you, Tracy, at the Political Command Center.
Jamila, before I let you go, just one question. In terms of the observance of the 20-meter rule, for those that are definitely paying, in that case, I will be getting back to Jamila in just a while. I now want to quickly dash to Chitone Julius, who joins me now from the areas of Sembabule, particularly Maogola North. Let's get into the conversation of the numbers.
Of course, the machines were also another issue, but at most polling stations, they have the polling officers have managed to get that situation also sorted and let the people of Butambala cast their vote for the presidential candidate they want, the member of parliament, as well as the woman member of parliament. Back to you, Tracy, at the Political Command Center.
Jamila, before I let you go, just one question. In terms of the observance of the 20-meter rule, for those that are definitely paying, in that case, I will be getting back to Jamila in just a while. I now want to quickly dash to Chitone Julius, who joins me now from the areas of Sembabule, particularly Maogola North. Let's get into the conversation of the numbers turning up. Are we there yet in terms of voter turn-up?
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'm coming to you right from Maogola, specifically in Kasonji, that is Kawanda sub-county. Here, the voter turnout is reasonably good, and people are still showing up at this polling station. And as we speak, one of the contestants in the Maogola North constituency, who is Sodo Aine, has just cast his vote and is still here at the polling station. But as we speak, we are seeing so many people who are still showing up to cast their votes, irrespective of the age. Apart from those ones who are eligible to vote, they are turning up in good numbers to vote, as you can see. But in terms of the challenges experienced so far, as far as Maogola North is concerned, voting is still going on well, apart from the biometric voter verification machines that have got issues in the morning. The voting is still going on well manually, and people are still coming up to cast their votes. As we speak, everything is still normal. The security situation is still good, and we shall be giving you updates as they unfold each time and each moment, and everything is specified as it is, and people are doing whatever it takes to ensure that this election goes in a free and fair way.
Julius Chitone there, who was speaking from Maogola North. That is the race right there. We'll be bringing you details of what that particularly looks like. Now, there is a lot happening, but the conversation must continue, particularly of how people are dissecting this particular race. I definitely want to cross to, of course, there we go, Richard Oyel, who joins me now. Richard, many thanks for joining us. It is another polling station, and we want to get an update of just how the voting process is undergoing now. Richard.
Well, the voting here in Moroto voters are expected to vote here. The voter turnout was so good, like early by 7 a.m. Most of the voters had already turned up, and the polling officials were also there. They had already set the polling station to ensure that the voting continues. We have elected positions within Moroto municipality, but we also have Tepeth County in Moroto, and then Madeniko County. All these candidates will be battling out today, and when the results come out, definitely we'll know who is taking the lead in this particular general elections. We've also seen a deployment of police and other uniformed officers who are patrolling the different polling stations, just ensure that every voter ensures that there's peace in this polling stations. So what we're waiting, we're expecting in a few minutes, we're told the independent candidate Angela Fred is going to show up and also vote here. He's contesting for Moroto Municipality MP seat. He will be battling with NRM's flag bearer, that is Francis Lorica Adome, who had casted his vote earlier in Bazaar polling station. So we're waiting to see how the day turn up. Of course, the polling officials told us that once it reaches 4 p.m., they are going to close the voting session and they will do some counting of those votes at these polling stations and then ensure that the results from here are taken by the returning officers to the tally centers where they will have the larger votes coming from the different polling stations. Here in Moroto, of course, 118 polling stations in Moroto district here are counted so that we know who the winners are. Back to you at the Political Command Center.
Richard Oyel giving us an update from the Karamoja sub-region. Moroto is one of those particular areas. It is indeed quite a calm day. Speaking from whether you are looking at the weather or whether you're looking at the security within the country as the citizens undertake this particular process, everything remains relatively calm. Now we're coming to you live from the Political Command Center, giving you a 360 look at what the country looks like as we head to the polls, as we are actually undertaking these particular polls. Also that the Electoral Commission did give an update. Justice Simon Byabakama saying it is a goal for the country to use the National Voters Register to undertake this process, given the few challenges, technical challenges that the biometric voter verification kits have undergone. And that is the case across the country. The National Voters Register is exactly what they are using in this moment. It is quite the election, unlike any other we've seen. And of course, you cannot talk about this election without giving context to how we got here. We did have a roadmap that was set out by the Electoral Commission, and then into the primaries, the vetting processes, the nominations, the campaigns, and finally election day happening today, and will be the case all the way to February 6th, around there. But for today, 3 elected positions: the presidential, members of parliament, and the women members of parliament. Those are the 3 slots. And I want to hand it over to Mildred to share with us insights into the numbers and some of the key insights you need from various constituencies. Mildred.
Uganda goes to the ballot. 8 candidates competing for 1 presidential seat. 1 incumbent, 2 other who have been on the ballot before, and you also have 5 others who are newcomers and 1 more. So that's making it 8. 2 of the 2 candidates here, NRM and NUP, have become the ones who are leading, the race according to some opinion polls, and also looking at some of the opinions online and everything that is going on, especially what has been through the campaigns. This is UG Votes 2026.
Participation to accountability, a process that began many months ago with mobilization and campaigns, a process shaped by laws, institutions, and public scrutiny, and a process that now demands accuracy, patience, and accountability. Across the country, key electoral activities are underway, from voting to verification, from tallying to communication. every step matters. This is where facts take precedence over rumors, where systems are tested under pressure, and where credibility is built or lost. Our coverage follows the process as it unfolds, step by step. We analyze developments with experienced current affairs experts. We deliver context to help you understand not just what is happening, where systems are tested under pressure, and where credibility is built or lost. Our coverage follows the process as it unfolds, step by step. We analyze developments with experienced current affairs experts. We deliver context to help you understand not just what is happening.
But as we speak, many people, especially from the National Resistance Movement, NRM, 17 of them already have 1 foot in, and they are unopposed. They were declared unopposed by the Electoral Commission, starting with the Speaker of Parliament currently, Anita Mong, who was declared MP-elect, District Woman Member of Parliament for Bukedia, and she had, of course, a lot of controversy around there. Akumu Catherine Mavenjina, MP-elect, Older Persons Member of Parliament, Northern Uganda, right there. She was also declared unopposed. She also belongs to the NRM. There are more people waiting to just swear in May. Emmanuel Banya is one of them from Koboko County. He was declared MP-elect, and he also belongs to the NRM. And there are more people. Emily Kugonza Buyanja East MP-elect is part of the 17 that have already gone through and opposed. And Geneva Neitwe is also one of those. Urubiri is a district MP-elect, also one of those that is not having a headache on a day like this. Minister Fiona Nyamtoro, she currently is serving as a youth MP, but she contested for Nebi, District Woman Member of Parliament, and she went through and opposed after being declared so by the Electoral Commission. She's one of the 17 not having headaches with a polling day like this one. Lilian Paparo Biale, a woman Member of Parliament, MP-elect, was also declared unopposed, and she does belong to the ruling party. We can say comfortably the ruling party has 17 of them inside Parliament already. Ofono Opondo, who has previously been speaking for the government and the Lead of Media Center, went into elective politics, and well, he was just lucky that for the first time he went into elective politics and he went through unopposed. He does belong to the NRM. Laura Kanushu Opori, that is MP-elect, also unopposed. National Female MP for Persons with Disabilities, and she also went through unopposed and belongs to the NRM. The current Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayewa Ruhinda North, I beg your pardon, MP-elect, also went through and opposed. Looks like all the top seats, right from the top to Vice President, to the Speaker, to the Deputy Speaker, and then ministers, and then members of Parliament who are incumbent, were quite lucky to go through unopposed. Peggy Joy Wako, National Female Member of Parliament for Older Persons, also went through unopposed. And let me take you through how the Parliament will look like. And we'll be filling in the details of this Parliament as time goes on, as we get in more details. Of course, you have NRM that is already having up to 17 members of Parliament already in. Of course, the UPDF is not a political party, but it does of course also send in 10 members of Parliament from the UPDF. It's not a political party, you have to make this clear, but this is a special interest group. They are called the listening posts. Then you have Democratic Party, JEMA, National Unity Platform, previously been the leader of opposition in Parliament. Will they maintain that seat, or will they take over government? And NRM, UPC, FDC, Alliance for National Transformation. You have the independents, who are quite many. More independents have contested than those who are actually vying for seats under political parties. You have Democratic Front, new entrant, PFF, new entrant, and then Ecologic Party of Uganda, EPU. Who of these are going to occupy this entire Parliament? That is a conversation that is going to begin at exactly 4 p.m. Who is winning what? How many of these each other political parties, apart from the UPDF that will be nominated later, who of these are actually going to field more members of Parliament than any other political party? The total is 529. As you can see,